Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here, Lance's Performance Shop, Lone Star Mopars.com. A little bit after 9 p.m. here Saturday night, and it's happened. Not that the thumb's miraculously perfect, no. Look at that. My arms turned black because it's in a hoodie. It's hoodie season. Just like that, we went from 90 degrees to cold. And, I'm sure by Monday or Tuesday it'll be back up to the 90s, but whatever. Came out here and I want to get something done. I believe this is going to be DRPD Tool Haul number 16. Now, we're going to get it kicked off here with some stuff from Kyoto Tool Company, or KTC. And this is one I'm pretty excited about, but you're going to want to stick around to the end, because we're going to have something brand new. So technically I've had it for quite a while, I just haven't made the video, so... Let's get started though, shall we? We're going to go with kind of like the low-end item here, and I realize, do I? I do. Last time I was out here cleaning up, I didn't get to put these scissors away, which are now very important to me. Right on cue, text message interrupting us. But, 1 second, I've got to take care of that. Alright, so got that crisis handled, and we're back where we barely picked up. But, this is kind of the low end of the totem pole here. This is going to be KTC's part number. There's a shorter one than this, but AH4415150. It's $10.30. Of course, we bought this on a sale, so we got a pretty sweet discount. If you did not know, or if you are new here, timestamps and links, they are down below. They are there solely for your convenience. If you watch this and you want to go back to the third item that we showcased, use the timestamps. If you want to spoil the video, use the timestamps. If you want to go pick up one of the items we showcased, use the links. Do I make jack off those links? I sure don't, at least at this point in time. It's, again, all solely there for your convenience. So, what we have, this is not exactly something I will probably ever use for its intended purpose, but if I show you the bag, I have not opened it up yet at all, and you can see right there, I'll translate that very quickly for you. Wheel bolt alignment pin, I believe is what all that those fancy exotic looking characters say. So you're thinking like, wheel bolt alignment pin, what in the world is that about? Well, think of a lug nut and think of a wheel and think of a stud, and you know, all those things go together. I guess if you had the right car, probably Japanese market, you could essentially, I guess, tap this in. There's like two little ball detents here, and this would stick out almost like a bullet lug nut, and you could slide the wheel over this, and then you would come in and you would zip your lug nuts on, or wheel nut, whatever they do these days. I'm old school, I've got studs and lug nuts, so you're thinking like, why'd you buy that? Well, number one, it was cheap. Number two, this little guy right here, if any of you remember this little gem, I think it's slightly more expensive, ironically. 11-ish dollars, 10, 11, somewhere in that range. What this is a stone remover, like in your tire. You could use it obviously for other things. I actually use it a good bit. It's stupid, kind of, but also very functional. Maybe you're like, you know, higher and higher up you get in, you know, car show territory. Little things like this, I mean, I've seen deals where there's two brand new, you know, 2010 Vipers, you know, one's green, one's orange, they both have white stripes, same interior, both stock. How do you decide who wins? The guy might come by with a white glove and rub his, you know, index finger tip on the inside of the wheels, and the orange car had more brake dust than the green, so the green one gets the win. Yeah. The other, like a real practical application for some of you, whether you work there, you're kind of like low man on the totem pole strapping things down, or you run the shop, dynos. If you have an in-ground dyno, or heck, even one on a trailer, if you go around to events, rocks fly. This is why typically a good shop or an established shop doesn't let anyone park behind the dyno when they are having a dyno day. Now, most shops, you've got your bay right here. You know, I realize there's some people that go over there and have it against the back wall for whatever insane reason. Maybe it was the only space, or the only place they could get good concrete down, or something. Stereotypically, you're going to have, you know, like your two-post lift bays, and then you've got this one with the dyno in the ground, and your exhaust is right here, closest to the door, you know, for easy out, and it's not going to fill up the room. Soot, you know, if they dyno diesels or anything crazy, methanol, the list goes on. But whatever in the parking lot is behind this door, whether it's the owner, guy that came to film his buddy's car dynoed, whatever it might be, this car is in great risk of getting a window pitted. This would be kind of overkill, but if there's little chunks of pebbles, you know, boom, get this crud out of there. So, but again, literally any prying you wanted to do to your heart's content, there you go. So if I'm not using this thing, though, for its intended purpose, what would I do? Well, I'll try it. I don't know if there's ever a scenario where I'll be able to do that. Maybe on someone else's cars. Again, me, I've got studs that come out and the wheel goes on, and this would have no place or purpose. But what I got this for, and what I thought it would be kind of neat for, number one, the steel on this was immaculate. Like, every time this falls to the floor, you can tell, like, oh, that's good steel. I figured this would be the same. But if you look at the end of this, it's got a really nice contour to it. And here in the hourglass, guess what that's like? That's almost like a good spot for me to hold it. And if I hold it with this hand, and we picture a hammer in this hand, and you think, well, you can't use that as a center punch, dude. It's not chiseled. And you think, oh, why would you get this and sharpen it? You can get like a really good center punch for $7. Well, here's the deal. I'm thinking of using this partially for its intended purposes as an alignment pin, just not for, you know, wheels per se. So all the time, you know, the stuff you do on old Mopars, you drill the frame rails, whether you're going to put like a bracket through and there's a support on the inside or the outside. Subframe connectors come to mind. Frame rails drill very easily most of the time on the old Mopars, but, you know, it's a little deal where if you come in, and I know some people are like, don't bolt them in, weld them in, be a man. Well, guess what? If you're going to weld them in, you still need the thing held in the hole so you can actually come in, drill the other hole, get them lined up right. And I typically use little proto Jimmy bars for that sort of a thing. The problem is, those are like, I always just default to 18 inches. That's what I typically use at work. That's what I replicated here. Those are rough. They're not smooth. If you had like a finished, you know, I typically do, you know, flat black or textured stuff, you know. Every once in a while somebody brings something in and they've got a frame rail painted immaculately. So my thoughts were something like this is far less abrasive, and so you just kind of get it in, tapper, shimmy it, and call it good. The other thing, I don't know that I have the heart to screw this up, but I probably will because it's cheap. A lot of times, like if you were doing, say, upgrading to 3/8 or half-inch fuel lines or something, always at the end of the line, every frickin' roll I've ever had, it's collapsed. Even if they put like the blue or, you know, yellow or red caps on it for you, and it looks good and concentric, you take that thing off and you're like, ugh, you know. So there's really cheap swaging tools. I really need to buy one, but I'm kind of thinking like this is far, like especially if you're doing aluminum or copper stuff, I'm kind of wondering if this would work good there. Will it? I don't know, but I'm going to find out because it was cheap. It says KTC on it. It looks cool. And again, previous experience tells me the steel is very good. So that's that. Between those two tools, if you want to get some KTC stuff in your life for really, really reasonable prices, you got like $20 pre-sale prices. You really cannot go wrong. So coming in next, this is a big one for me. And it is not this guy. This right here is you're thinking like, oh, that's a little quarter drive Roto Head, huh? It looks like it would be a quarter drive with a longer handle because the head is so compact, right? Spin it around, you're like, whoa, that's a monster. And look at the disproportionate size of the anvil to the top, you know, like body of the swivel head here. That's because this is 3/8 drive. If you recall, not too long ago we brought this in. I personally love Roto Heads. I know it's hit and miss with people. Some people hate them. I think more people that, you know, hate them than like them, or just don't care for them, or aren't going to invest good money in one type of a deal. I love them personally. I don't know. Again, I think I'm in the minority there, but you can see KTC Japan, the part number, and if you're thinking like, okay, well, what does this have to do with anything? Well, number one, let me give you an update. I do love this thing. It's with this style of a Ratchet, you typically get stuff from Taiwan, right? As best I know, this is made in Japan. It's compact, so you're going to go places where a standard one can't go. These are usually very bulky. The cheaper you can get them, the bulkier the head, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. You might not be trying to fish this in a tight confine. For me, it's more about the reach, using it as kind of like a nut driver type of a deal. All sorts of selling points we've covered ad nauseum. The thing that has bothered me in real world use, here on the bench, I always just kind of give you the feel good and, this might be an issue. Well, it's this. I said, might be an issue, and it's super annoying, okay? I was using this on some water necks that are deep down in Magnum land, and you've got big extensions with your coconut grips and everything, and then you're trying to pull it back out, reseat it, stop some leaks, and you're having to change direction, and it's kind of hard for me. Some people, heck, even if you have big hands, maybe you got like finer tips on your fingers or something. With my thumb on this hand, it's like you can't do it. So you're kind of having to use your index finger and you can't, so I'm having to do it all left-handed. And it's nothing really against KTC because, again, this is designed to be super compact, okay? And they did a great job there. And that's one of the trade-offs, but it is annoying in real world use. That said, if I come over here, this is the Tekton equivalent, okay? If you're thinking like, hey, I've got a Ratchet that looks just like that, but mine is green. Well, that would be from Harbor Freight. It would be the Harbor Freight Pittsburgh equivalent. And some of you are like, no. I've got a blue handle on that thing. It looks just like that. And it's like, well, that's probably like Aries from Amazon, And insert whatever brand and whatever color, and there's a very good chance it all came from the same factory, right? Now, Harbor Freight and Tekton, I don't know if Tekton still has these. I never remember to look. Now, one selling point, they are quick release, so that inflates the head a little bit. They've got the right and the left. This is slightly easier to articulate, but I'm not going to lie, it's still not an enjoyable process. Again, that's sort of what you would have to do with this style, but look at the head here, considerably larger than the KTC. If I get these two side by side, you're like, whoa, yeah, this looks like this would be like quarter drive versus half inch or something, right? Well, let's check it out. I'm gonna come in here, we'll grab, this is ironically, I think I use the quarter the least. Still gets used a lot, but not near as much as 3/8 and a half. You can see the KTC is basically a quarter drive body, with a 3/8 anvil. Again, look at the difference there. Obviously, it's a much more finer and precise ratchet. I really want to get one of the Kokins, but dang, they're expensive. And they're not like updated, Zeal stuff. They're like still kind of old school, but like with this, there's, a good bit more play. I think these are all 72 tooth. Maybe they'll even update them at some point. But if I take this guy and compare it to the half inch, sorry about all these techs. It's one of those things I deal with. That's insane to know that this is 3/8 and not quarter and compare it to a half inch. Yeah, you get the idea, right? So if you're thinking like, okay, well, you already had this, what's the point in showing it to us? Well, check this out. This is going to clock in at 180 millimeters, or what we can call in old school America, 7 inches. When I bought this, I told you, it was a really good sale. The one that I want is like not in stock as often. I've tried multiple sales and I'd missed it, and this was there, and I'm like, yeah, let's just do it. With the thoughts that, one, I love these ratchets. KTC I'd had really good luck with at the time. I thought, if that continues, it's a win either way. I could take this one to work. I can, put it in a different box, have it in like the car. Basically, 3/8 for me is like the go-to. So a quarter and half are nice, but like I could do those things with 3/8, particularly by way of adapters. So if you're like taking something to the track, or you're throwing something in a car pack, and you're like, man, I really wish I had a Roto Head. Boom, here you go. What KTC does, they've got this one, which is the Goldilocks, the medium, the 7 inch, if you will. They've got a short one, which I personally want nothing to do with. And then they've got part number. Let's see if we can find it here. Oh no, it's on the other page, isn't it? It's going to be part number BRS W3L. I realize now, because of all these texts, I screwed this up. There was an item I wanted to do before these two items, but alas, it is what it is. So, this one right here, let me translate this for you. All this beautiful Japanese, that I cannot read. I believe it says 3/8 swivel head, 300 millimeter handle, or 12 inches. Pretty sure that's exactly what that is. I didn't leave anything out. I'm very fluent in translating. So take my word for it and run with it. The thing is, what's crazy, if you think, whoa, this guy's nuts, you know, this, yeah, I'm set there, but he says there's a stubby iteration of that, sign me up. With KTC, for example, this 12-inch one that I've got in my hand, it was, oh, this says 80/40, which we did get it for a pretty good sale. They have, I think the prices have come down. I thought they were all like in the 60s. Like, basically, if I had all three of them, it would be like 63, 66, 69. Like, it's not much price difference, right? Even though this is 5 inches longer. So what are we talking about? Here's your old truss guard here that you've seen and can understand, 7 inches. Check this out. Gotta go way down to get that in the frame. So you're thinking like, whoa, what is that length again? This is a 12-inch, 300 millimeter essentially. So this is what I wanted all along. It's just every time this was like not in stock, and so I caved and bought that one to try it. I do like it, and you're thinking like, oh, you said this was like hard for you. It is hard for me. It might be hard for some of you, or annoying. Some of you aren't going to have any issue with it. It's a very good mechanism, so you can't like one-hand it very easily. I think over time maybe it would break in, but keep in mind I have to do this stuff left-handed because my thumb, like, it's just, it doesn't function for that, you know. That said, it's going to be exactly the same mechanism, same compact head, which is a win. You can kind of see him throat to throat here. And then just the main thing, where this handle ends at 7, this one goes 12 inches. So let's compare now, shall we? We had this guy, which absolutely dwarfs the KTC by pretty much the entire padded handle. Now you've got that. So we've added some length. What do we get with length? We get leverage. And where you would get leverage if this was a fixed head ratchet, with it being a roto head, I get length or extension. Okay, so again, think of this. Put your standard socket on, and with this guy, if I'm going to use it, you know, kind of run something down, let's say that you're, again, going down to a water neck and you've got an alternator here, and it's like you can't really get your hand in because there's a bracket. Well, spin this guy, put the same socket on it, and where this one terminated and you couldn't really turn your hand, now your hand is way up here, out of harm's way, and I can just go to town running something down. So that's what I tend to use the roto heads for. Again, it's kind of also like a poor man's nut grip, or a nut driver, I should say. And the KTC one, I had that one long enough to be okay with it. And you're thinking like, hey, you usually do comfort grip or padded handles. Yes, I'm not opposed to a bare metal handle. In fact, a lot of times I do like them. This one, I'm going to tell you right now, first complaint on the board on this one. If you can't tell what I'm doing, I've got the end of this one in the, you know, midsection here. It's the same handle contour, okay? So what I would have liked to have seen is maintain the geometry here, but do it over a longer length. So like if we've got this bell curve here coming out, and it went for the bottom 1/8 of the ratchet, make this bell curve go for the bottom 1/4 of the ratchet, right? And kind of keep the handle proportionate. Where with this one, yes, my thumb comes way up. On here, it's the same thing, but now like I'm really wanting to choke up with a longer shaft there, and then I'm coming way out. So it would be cool if we could have just had little bits extension, right? Since it is going from 7 to 12, if we could have just moved everything up. And again, I'm consistent in what I say and complain about. Watch any video with a ratchet and you're going to hear me say, yep, well, wish my thumb rested on the handle. So with that said, a lot of times, you know, I wind up choking up here anyway. Not often with a roto though, because again, I do tend to use it in this configuration dead on, or in this configuration running something down. Some people do it, some people don't. I'm one that does. So just for kicks and giggles here, we're going to take the big 1/2-inch drive Tekton, and these are almost identical overall length. I'm going to say the Tekton is just a smidge longer, and if I flip it out, you can kind of see there, if we kind of tried to get this end to this end, you can see I'm just a fingernail or two here shorter, and then about another 3/8 anvil away from the perimeter on that guy. So it's a very good length in my opinion, again, especially if you're into this type of a ratchet, which again, we are, so it's a win. What I want to do now is jump out of there. I guess we should, based on the Duralast video. Okay, I was in here. I love aesthetically, boom, these things are killer. Small complaints, but like aesthetic wise, it's so unique. And then we hit like my magical time of like 25 to 30 minutes. We were done. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I had sockets over here. And I went to put the sockets on, and that changed things. Let's go ahead right here. Shouldn't be any different than what we had with our 7-inch iteration. But we'll come in, throw a coconut on it, keep it Japan with Japan there, and boom. No issue at all with the KTC ejecting. If you're curious what I'm talking about, go watch that Duralast video. Came out today. I've already had several people message me like, dude, I ran out to AutoZone, had to buy those. Either A, they love the look of them, which again, that's me, or B, they're like, oh, I got to see if that thing's really screwed up like that. And so far, everyone that's reported back on the actual functionality has said the same thing. So I hope that does get revised, because it's a super, super good looking little Ratchet. So again, like some of you, they're like, well, this is way better looking. Okay, but imagine just take your favorite colors and color schemes and put it here, and then add the uniqueness and the thin head, and you'd be like, yeah, I could see that being $25. Let's go. So right here, this is something that I think is going to last me a very long time. I feel like I want to have this 12-inch here at the house, and then maybe take the 7-inch to work. Currently don't have a Roto at work. But that's what I'm leaning towards. Who knows, maybe I'll wind up keeping both of them here. We'll have to kind of feel it out. But my biggest complaint is just it's really hard for me to change direction, which it's compact, yes, but you got to realize, like, my thumb is here, it looks really good, it's just I don't feel, and it, like, when I try to do something like that, when you don't feel and like there's just like dead space, it makes it's really hard to explain. But like right here, it's still difficult, but my thumb can feel and push. With this one, it's just like, it just, woo, a bunch of skin just folds up, and I don't know, it's strange, and I hope no one else has to deal with that crud. But if you do, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the smaller things, I mean, make this Hazette, make it Stavilla, make it Pittsburgh, I have the same issue with them across the board. So with that said, we're to our final KTC item, but like I told you, stick around because we got something special, and this is 100% what I meant to do first. That original text message got me sidetracked. I do apologize. This is their part number, ATP32. It's going to set you back $10.95 before any sort of a sale or discount. And you're thinking like, oh, this must be something like the wheel bolt pins or something. Kind of. You're thinking like, oh, it's fuel clamp. Well, no, that can't be a fuel clamp. Like a chip clamp? You put that on your sneakers? What's going on here? Well, obviously it's right there. Why don't you just read, right? And you're thinking like, what? I don't understand. And you look at the back and you think again like, oh, what's going on? It's clamping something, but what exactly is it clamping? Well, here's the deal, all right? Again, this is like nothing crazy or exciting, but I'm optimistic it's going to be, a good product. Think, if you will, if you are, I don't know, going to do something real quick in the interior of your modern vehicle. Old stuff, I chop this circuit out. So what you have going on is you've got, typically over here on an American car or truck, you've got these little prongs. Like if you open your door, it hinges this way, unless you've done something crazy, Lambo doors or suicide. You're typically going to go out this way, and there's this little metal post, right? And the door is shut and the pin goes in, because the door forces it in. And when the door opens, the pin pops out. And what is that pin doing when it pops out? It's completing a circuit. How is it completing a circuit? Well, the door goes away, it pops, it sends voltage, and where does that voltage ultimately wind up? Your interior lights. So, I'm not 100% sure these are going to work on everything I want them to. Obviously, I think modern cars, you're probably most likely to be okay, but it's not going to be a clamp like this per se. If you look in the channel of this clamp, you can see that little rib right there, kind of between the thumb and finger. That's sort of designed to grab a ridge and just basically keep that button depressed. Again, it's a deal, especially if you mess around with old Mopars. Sometimes your interior lights come on and sometimes they don't. So what's the first thing you do? You go right over to the door jamb switch, because you're usually the driver. You may not have a passenger, so you're not concerned with that side. And what do? I take my thumb and I just jam the thing over and over and over. And what does it do? It eventually, either cleans the contacts, breaks corrosion, does something and completes the circuit, and my lights are on. And then it's fine for like a week or two, and then you come and you open your door when you get home from cruise night, and it's dark, and you're like, what? What's going on? And then you're like, oh, my interior lights aren't on. And you just push and push and push. You know the drill. And the problem is, the opposite side of that is if, let's say, that you blew a fuse or you're adding a tack or something. If you're not going to disconnect the battery, if it's just something quick or it has to be connected for what you're doing, maybe a tune or something, if you're like fuel injection, late model, fancy stuff, put this on there, and that's going to simulate the door being closed while you're still able to go in and out of the vehicle without constantly opening and closing, and that allows you to not drain the battery with the interior lights. That's literally what these are. That said, they could do other things. I mean, obviously they don't come to a point, so it's not like it's going to keep your bag of chips sealed or something, or your snack pack in the toolbox. But anything that you kind of need to hold that's in this range, these would be functional options for. So I'm not 100% sure they're going to work with my vehicles at all, but I thought, you know what, for $10 I'm going to take a flyer on them, and I figured I could find something to do with them. Regardless, you always can, and I assumed, again, coming from KTC, being made in Japan, I figured the spring steel would be good. And aside from it being limited to just this is the closing point, I was like, you know what, I can find something for these. So even if it's just maybe like holding, wire housing or loom or something that I'm doing in place so it doesn't snake and run with me, I will get my $10 worth out of these, and I'm confident they will serve us well over the years. So we are now to the moment some of you might be the most interested in. I started to make a standalone on these. I just really, like I've said, since like March, I just don't have free time, and when I do, it's late, and it's instances like this. So what we're gonna do is throw this down. You're like, whoa, what? Koken, KTC, Napros, DRPD, PB Swiss, Knipex even. What is that? Like Checkmate? What's going on here? Well, that I believe, and we're probably going to butcher the pronunciation here, but I think it's Keiba. And you're thinking, like, Keiba, what is this? And why is there a horse on it? What have you done? Like, did you buy that to, like, hold horseshoes? Or, I mean, what's going on, buddy? Well, this is something I was very excited about. If you are a frequent purchaser of DRPD or you've signed up for their newsletters, they recently added a new brand, and that brand, of course, is Keiba. I've sadly had these sitting here for quite some time and never, like I said, had time for the video, but Keiba pliers. These are very, very fancy looking pliers. The ones I got, not so much, but they have some really nice finish. If you're bored, I'll try to remember to link the company website. If you can skim around to like the English sections or translations, they do some super cool like pre-manufacturing stuff with the steel. They're very, again, little KTC stone chip remover. The steel. This is the thing. You can take production overseas and go here and go there and cut corners. One of the things, regardless of how finite the machining or the tolerances are, something that's critically important, and I say this all the time, especially with wrenches, it's the base material selection. And then what you do with that base metal. You can have the same base metal go to factory A and factory B, and if factory B is Keiba, they're going to do a whole lot more processing, and that in the end results in a 90% of the time better end product. Sort of depends what happens the rest of the way, but the people that go to those great lengths in their processing of the alloy, they tend to do the same thing with machining and finishing and all that stuff. And I believe that's what we're going to have here. So when I saw it, I immediately investigated. I was thinking like, okay, what do I want to try? Do I want to like order in a ton of stuff? I'm always hesitant to do that. Even if there's a German brand I don't know of that's somehow under the radar and KC Tool starts stocking it, I don't want to go in and buy a wrench set, a ratchet set, a socket set, a pry bar, every screwdriver they have. I'm going to come in and I might get the number 2 Phillips, and I might buy a 3/8 something or another ratchet, and maybe one wrench if I like those two. I proceed cautiously, and despite as impressive as their company website seems, that's what I decided to do here. So, $21.25 before any discount was applied, which is, I think, a really good price for what these are. Part number is T346. Again, if you want to replicate these, I'll have them linked down below. If you take that link and you're like, I'm not buying those, but I want to see what else they have, on the DRPD website, you can just like click by brand and you can go through. I don't think he stocks near everything they've got. If there's something you find on their site that you can't find on his, email and let him know. But with that said, we're going to quickly pause because this is going to time out, and we can now continue. So, part number T346 from Keiba. Again, my apologies if that's totally botched. Right here. So you're thinking like, what? That's not that cool of a handle. And a little needle in the 150. Hey, I know from your screwdriver videos, 100 millimeters 4, 125 is 5, 150 is 6 inches. You got a 6-inch pair of needle nose pliers. Well, the $21 isn't bad, but it doesn't have a cool looking handle. It's not 2-component. What's going on? Well, let's take a look at what these actually do, because that's sort of what sold me on trying these. If we just look for the English here, okay, capacity is 1.6 millimeter hardwire, which means jack nothing to me. I really wish when people, this is not just a knock on Keiba, this is everyone, okay. I wish if we're going to go to the length of like saying, like hardwire, I wish we would have the AWG, just old school me, yes, I could figure that out and, cross-reference it, but just if you're going to go to that length, like the KTC bags, like there is no English on those. I don't expect that there, but if you're going to go ahead and put hardwire, maybe put the AWG2 or have standalone packaging if things take off. Right now, I can't fault them too much. This is my first, knowledge of the brand. But customer satisfaction first, right here. Long nose, side cutting pliers, MFT. What is MFT? Multifunction type. That is why these are here. I just wanted to try them. I was intrigued. Just like with the Duralast ratchets. I saw the eye candy. I checked it out. I was like, okay. I want to try that and experience it. So let's take a look over here on the, we'll stick over here real quick. 2 millimeter stranded wire. Okay, that's all I can offer you. But this, if we ever see those characters in Japan, we'll know it means cut. And I'll probably never know that, but we'll run that with the assumption you'll remember that. Right here, bent or bending, I suppose. Here would be catching. I'd kind of refer to that more as like grabbing or holding. Right there, you've got turning. Won't argue with that one. And then stripping. And if we come down, there's still more. You have, that says, what does that say? Sprit? I don't know if they mean split. I have no idea what that is, what that's going to be. But right here, where they say press, we can think of that as crimp. All right, made in Sanjo. Probably screwed that up too, but I'm trying, doing my best here. The bottom line is, if you're like, well, that seems like a very gimmicky pair of pliers, I would agree, because there's not much that these don't do. And that is why, for $21, I'm willing to take a flyer on them. And my impressions on these will kind of dictate, do we jump back to the brand? Do we find other things? I will tell you, there are some pliers I did find that I was super interested in, and they just simply, DRPD didn't have them, so that's also influenced this. But this pair right here was coming home. Well, that's all it amounts to. So they would have had a couple more with them, and I'll tell you right now, they're 2-component handles, which I don't believe these are available with, or again, they just simply weren't stocked at DRPD. It's like a really dark blue with a yellow. I can't say that I love it. I'd need to see it in person, but it's super unique, and unique is often a good thing. So right there, the highest quality tool series to leading the world. So again, a little bit kind of, muffled in translation there, but basically, this is a super sweet pair of pliers that I don't have anything similar to from any brand. So right here, can I translate any of that? No. So if Chris Koss is watching, maybe he wants to take the time and do that, or tell you all the particulars on it. I don't know. Anyone else, I mean, if you are fluent in Japan or know exactly what this is saying and it's important, feel free to tell people one thing I already love about the company. Watch this. 0 staples. The advancements are amazing. And again, you know, I would say that, throw down something from Quinn at Harbor Freight. If they did that, I would be a happy man. So they don't, because it's retail, and they know what people will steal. So, you know, can't fault them terribly. That said, the other thing I should tell you is with these pliers, this particular pair doesn't have it, but they do something called bullet metal. And if you're thinking like, whoa, you got my attention. The bullet metal, basically right in here, you know, around your joint, it would serve as like your, well, it's a surrogate, I guess we would call it, like a brass bushing. And it looks super cool, but I think it also apparently helps them have like really, really fine motion and movement and feel. This is feeling pretty stiff. I've never, despite that being that way, I've never opened these. So this is going to be, I think, kind of stiff. I could be wrong. Let's find out. Okay. Already breaking in a bit, and again, I'm fine with that. Some people like will denounce a pair of pliers because they don't operate like they've been used for a decade. I'm fine with this. There's a few times where it's really, really, really bad. I will let you know. This, totally cool with it. Not gonna fault them. But check this out. You've got the Keiba logo. It's very, very lustery. I'm not gonna say this is polished because it's not, but the luster is kind of making it hard to showcase. T346. You've got Japan right there. Very cool logo. I'm not sure that I caught the backstory on that, but I do like it. And it's not something I would have predicted to see on a Japanese tool company. So that's exciting. Flipping this around, nothing to catch your eye here, but let's take a look at the handles. This is sort of like, this feels like a pair of channel locks. It's just red. So think of like your typical channel lock vinyl dip and make it red. Again, some people prefer this. Some people think it's easiest to see. Would I have bought these in a different color if it was available? 100%. Black even, gray, maybe I'd take red over white or pink or some hideous like springy neon color. But I have no issues with this. This is actually kind of a cool red for comparison. A little Stavilla. This is one of the 2.0 Keech fobs, so this is like a true cherry red, if anyone's particularly into that sort of thing. This Tekton handle. The red looks really good. The NWS, which hopefully, you know, some of y'all can reference this. And lastly, maybe the brightest red I've got here is on my OG Cutix. So yeah, I don't hate the red. It's just personally I would pick other colors, but again, I'm pretty happy with it, so I'm not gonna complain too terribly much. Let's try. I cannot move my overhead shop lights, unfortunately. So let me kind of take a gander at the teeth. So it looks to be finished out very, very well. Trying to see what setting the camera was on. Teeth right there, again, ribbed. That's pretty aggressive for just standard teeth. You know, would I prefer a crosshatch? Yes, because I'm the crosshatch guy. But I gotta say, this is, for what the pliers looked, sort of the dainty look, I would not have expected that. It feels really good. I think you're gonna get really nice initial performance. Assuming the steel is what it's cracked up to be and it maintains that, these will be a very well-wearing, long-lasting pair of pliers. When we get into this region, okay, you can see where you're able to grab, bend certain size wires. The cutting right there at the base looks to be really good. I don't see any light passing through. I know some people are super anal about that. Let's actually get this decal. Flip it over so we have white. This will be the telltale. So pay attention here. I'm going to try to tilt it where you can see the most white through there. It's perfection. There's zero bleed through of the white background on that. So very well executed on that end. The thing that really got me was the crimping. Like, that's just Super cool. You rarely see pliers like this. I did find some. I'm not going to tell you what they are. But, you know what? I think on the... Where did I throw that? I think I figured out what this must be. So, going with the impression, the... Well, no. Huh. Yeah, I don't know what that... I still don't know what sprit is. But if I can get this in focus for you, right there on the cutting edge, you'll see that hole. That's your stripping. This right here is your crimping. I'm not sure what... I don't know if that could do like 14, 16. I'd be really happy. Obviously, it looks like it could do 18 to 20 gauge. That next round area, there's no teeth or anything. Huh. I don't know, I guess it's just for slightly different sizes to kind of work with, or maybe it's splitting. You know, like if you had like speaker wire and you wanted to fan it out, and I guess leave the tool clamped or stationary and kind of, I don't know. I really don't know what they meant by sprit. It could be a deal where someone explains it to me and I feel like an idiot, but right now, like, splitting is coming to mind, because that's really what the picture looks like, to be honest with you. Right here, where, again, it says sprit. I'm not making that up. But this looks like, you know, white and red, I think, LEDs. And if you can carefully see it, the white wire goes there and that goes there. Maybe that is to split. Again, think of speaker wire if you don't do LED installs very often. And again, I'm thinking like if I mounted these, if I just lightly squeeze these in the vise, and then I pull like a 100-foot roll of wire, I need 12 feet spread for some reason. I don't know, trying to think of some practical application, but ultimately I'm still intrigued by these with all of the functionality they offer. In terms of right here, you know, a lot of times, especially like with cheap pliers, you can give them the squeeze here and you feel like you're going to break them. This is strong. For as dainty as that looks, this is very robust feel in hand. I'm excited to try them. That's really all I can tell you. We'll throw down and we'll try the grabbing. So let me come in and like stake it like an amusement park. I really didn't even squeeze that. It's almost like it just came to them. Is that magnetized? No, that's one of my pet peeves when pliers come magnetized. But like, I got that by the washer, and yeah, I'm thinking they're going to be pretty solid little pliers. The other selling point is, again, just the slim jaw profile. As I run my hand across here, they're finished out super well. Again, they are not polished or anything, but the finish out, you can tell they were ground very, very well. Right here, we'll try holding. This is a self-tapper, so it's not the best thing to showcase with. I mean, look how light of a... let me do this, okay? I'll just do one hand. And I know over time that'll break in, but right now, that's a selling point to me. I usually have wire sitting around here. What's the smallest thing I've got over here in this pile you can't see? Probably this drill bit, and we aced it on the first try. I mean, I'm thinking these are going to be pretty good. So what I want to know from you is if you were familiar with Keiba pliers, if so, how and why perhaps would be fascinating. But if you weren't and you see this, what do you think of this pair of pliers? Because again, the versatility to be able to grab, of course, bend all your standard plier stuff, cut is a big deal, strip is super nice, and then to actually come in and be able to crimp is a huge deal. And then you've got your spritting, I guess we'll call it, splitting. And I don't know, like I said, I have maintained my initial impression on these things, which they kind of built themselves up on their own website, kind of the backstory and everything. I think they're going to be pretty good. So ultimately now we just have to use these. I'm trying to decide if I want to keep them here or take them to work. Kind of think I'm going to keep these here. But yeah, I think next time I order from DRPD, I'll come into Keiba, see if there's anything else new, anything that catches my attention, and these passed the initial test. All right. And I'm willing to give the rest of the line a look. So again, reasonable price as well. Again, for something like this, take all these functions, okay? Just with a tool truck that's going to be like ultra compact, I'm sure. So you pay a premium for that. And then it's combination long nose pliers, so you've got cutting and gripping, and then add stripping and crimping. This is probably like a $60 pair of pliers off of a tool truck, so we shall see. Now, it is limited a little bit, you know, on what it looks like we could crimp. I don't think you're going to be able to come in here and do like 10 to 12 or anything, but I am intrigued, and the intrigue remains. So we'll get some seat time with them, see what we think. Again, if you have personal experience with them, let us know. Similarly, if you have used anything at all from Keiba, maybe you brought it in like I did, you saw that, there was a sale, and you're like, I'm going to try some of those. What did you get? Why did you get it? How do you like them? What do you have it to compare to? You know, are you comparing it to Klein? Are you comparing it to your Knipex stuff? Is it just so multifaceted, whatever you chose to bring in, that you don't really have a direct comparison to it? What does it remind you of? Anything you want to talk about along those lines, feel free. But yeah, that is what we have for you. We have KTC 12-inch Roto Head. Again, love the thing. Minus, you know, it's very hard for me, and I'm in a strange position because my thumb doesn't function, you know. But I would say, even if my thumb did, I would still annoy me. But at the same time, I'd probably be okay with it because it's so freaking compact of a head, which is the selling point. Got the door sensor clamps, which I'm optimistic might work, at least on some of my newer stuff. We've got this guy right here, which, again, I have no idea if it's going to work or not, but hey, I'm going to give it a go. And yeah, we will take it from there. So if you're interested in these Roto Heads, I don't think they have a quarter or a half. They definitely don't have a half, at least on DRPD. I keep meaning to email and ask him if he can get them, but alas, haven't had time. So next time I do, I'll try to remember to ask that question. But yeah, super excited about this stuff. Over time, I'll let you know if those worked for what I hope they do, which is their intended purpose. I'll let you know how this thing works out for everything I plan to do that is not intended for. And of course, we'll get some seat time on that guy, see how it goes. Should be very similar to that. And then right here with the Keiba pliers, man, that's just go to their website or go to DRPD, skim around a little bit. There's probably something that's going to interest you that you haven't seen from Snap-on, Klein, Knipex, wherever. They have some pretty unique stuff there. So again, I wouldn't advise going in and buying like a full kit of pliers. Pick the one that you either need because you lost it or it's worn out, or just if you're set, but you got to experience it, pick the most unique one or the one that you would use the most. Go to town with it and then see what you think. But on that front, we've had like 40 text messages here since we started filming again, and I guess I better check those out. So I will do that. I hope you got some enjoyment out of this video. Again, first-hand experience with any of this stuff, let me know. But yeah, LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all three at Lone Star Mopars. With that said, if you have not subscribed, I encourage you to do so. If you subscribe, jump your charger across the creek with your Keiba pliers in one hand and the KTC door sensor clamp that actually fits a 68 to 70 charger in your other hand. YouTube just might notify you that we got new videos every Wednesday and Saturday at 9 a.m. Texas time. With that said, thanks again for watching, and I do hope I catch you back here for more action from the shop.